Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the desert-swept plains of Anauroch. I'm Simon Tells Tales, and this is the third in my 5-part series of videos looking at TSR's 1991 campaign setting, Anauroch, by Ed Greenwood. In the first two videos, we looked at the geography of Anauroch and its three factions, the Bedin, the Zentarim, and the Faerun. In this video, I want to introduce you to some of the lesser factions in this land, the Tarig, the Laerti, and the Lamia, with the next videos providing an overall review of the campaign setting and 5 great story hooks for you to use in your campaigns. So, let's get to it. Now, you and I have already met the Bedin tribes of nomads, but we have not discussed the Tarig, a diminutive race of half-dwarf and half-humans who dwell on the eastern and southern edges of the desert, tending flocks of goats and sheep in the foothills. For the most part, these people travel in groups, and only the most adventurous of them dare to prepare themselves for trips deep into the desert itself. They are suspicious people, prone to plans within plans, calculating their eyes, constantly planning out routes of attack. See now how in their villages they lace their blades and the edges of crossbow bolts with poison. They are not easily captured, and they're not easily manipulated. For many of those outside of Anauroch, the Tarig are the only link between trade in the outside kingdoms and the Bedin themselves, although the Tarig will also guide visitors to locations within the inner desert for a price. Even those visitors who are familiar with the routes through the inner desert are well advised to seek the guidance of the Tarig in moving through Anauroch. Tripwires and traps have been set up in the hills to protect the Tarig from orc raids and attacks by the hungry Laerti lizards who plague this land. In fact, even now as the Tarig travel across the desert, see from the hills across the rocky outcrops the dark green lizard-faced skin of the Laerti hunters, who cling to the cool shade of the rocks, their tongues slicking across their lips as they watch the routes of the Tarig take across the desert, paying attention to their paths and the locations of their traps. The Laerti are built for the desert, and they revel in its survival. Their survival skills, deadly ferocity, and the fear that most people have of them also make them excellent mercenaries and bodyguards for anyone who can afford them, though it takes a strong will to maintain a relationship with these terrifying creatures. In fact, skin over the sands with me and past the rocky outcrops and the old campsites under overhangs, and we can see the outline of the trading hub of Tel Bedir. It is a small trading hub on the edge of the desert, a town of only a few thousand, and as we approach its dusty, sand-stepped streets and the adobe buildings that have been built from mud and stone, we can see the travellers, the merchants, and the expedition leaders. Even here, in amongst the Tarigs and the outsiders, the merchants and rogues and outlaws who have set up in the desert, there are Laerti lizard warriors, stood guard outside of shops and bazaars, or else watching over the wares of traders who have come in from other cities. They watch everything passing by in front of them, and travellers moving through here lower or revert their eyes from the creatures who watch them. More than a few innkeepers, in fact, have found themselves to be going out of business when traders with Laerti bodyguards have set up nearby. And here and there, among the drinking dens and the trading hubs, there are whispers amongst the travellers and adventurers of the things that lurk to the north, where the high ice glacier rises out of the desert. Along the desert's western edge, the one that runs along the side of the glacier, in amongst the ravines, is a dark city that has somehow survived the desert ruin for the most part. A dark city that few will dare to speak of, and where none will dare to tread. Halangadath, the city of the Lamia. Let us go there now, and step in amongst the dark shadows and weathered spires. At first the city seems deadly still. This ancient city is worn by the terrible windstorms and the blizzards that slip over from the high ice in the winter, but it does survive. Wander with me now in amongst the streets, the courtyards and the tapestry-clad rooms. Creatures are moving here, beautiful and fair beings, striking in their beauty, and they go from room to room clad in exquisite robes and creations of the fallen Netheril Empire. But they do not move like any normal creature. The lower parts of their bodies are the twisted and deformed torsos of beasts. Claws, hooves and tails propel them along the floor. This ancient race of twisted demons learned long ago to plunder the deep tombs and strongholds of the Netherese, and they use these magics and equipment now to turn this decayed place into a last bastion of faded magical decadence. Their laughter and the sound of music echoes through the walls, and their nightly reveries expand out across the desert wastes, a chilling threat to anyone who might listen. For deep below the city of Halungadath, in chambers and ancient dungeons so deep and twisted that even we in our omnipresent state are terrified of visiting, are the slave chambers, where it is rumoured that the Lamia keep humans who have fallen into their hands, breeding them and using them like cattle, feeding on them. The Tarig in the town of Tel Bedir know this. It's rumoured that the Tarig descended from the race of dwarves who once inhabited the city of Azkor, a port on the narrow sea that has long since been swallowed up. Look 40 miles east of Halungadath and you can see the masts of dwarven stone ships jutting up out of the desert. Some Tarig dream of being able to uncover their history in this lost ruin, but the threat of the Lamia and their songs and the sound of desert parties floating across the dunes stop even the bravest from venturing forth. And perhaps that is for the best. For among these dwarven ruins, things move in the dark unseen, just out of sight. Sages whisper that hags commanding hordes of the undead have taken hold here. And amongst the planeswalkers, there's a suggestion that something lurks in the caverns beneath Azkor, something terrible and dark. Thank you. I'm Simon Tells Tales, and this has been the third in my 5-part series looking at TSR's 1991 campaign setting Anauroch by Ed Greenwood. When we meet again, we'll be reviewing the source book for the campaign setting itself before going on to look at 5 great story hooks for your own adventures. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below and subscribe for more videos exploring some of the classic Forgotten Realms Dungeons and Dragons settings. If you've got a favourite out there that you'd like to cover as well, let me know in the comments below. And until then, I will wish you a good night, and we'll meet again soon when we go and discuss the campaign setting in detail.